Hello and welcome to the special show on Rajya Sabha TV. I am Vishal Dahiya, and the next half an hour will discuss the issue of intelligence sharing. It has been 10 years since India's financial capital, Mumbai, was struck by a terror attack in which 166 people, including 146 civilians, were killed and around 300 injured. 9 out of the 10 terrorists were also killed in the retaliatory action by the security forces. 10th anniversary of 26/11 is an apt occasion to take stock of the readiness of India's security apparatus and especially the intelligence agencies to counter such threats in the future. Several steps have been taken in the past decade to put in place a well-coordinated multi-agency system. One of them is National Intelligence Grid, or NATGRID, which collects comprehensive patterns of intelligence that can be readily accessed by the intelligence agencies. National Investigation Agency was also established to investigate offences related to terrorism and certain other acts. Another central agency, National Counter Terrorism Centre, has also been proposed. India has also had a long history of intelligence cooperation with several countries, and efforts are on to further strengthen that network. For more on this issue, we are joined by a distinguished panel of guests. Let me start by introducing them to you, beginning with Dr. Vikram Singh, a former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. We also have with us Alok Bansal, Director of India Foundation. And we have with us Navneet Vasan, former DG of NIA, that's National Investigation Agency. And we're also joined on OB by Mr. D.C. Pathak, former Director of Intelligence Bureau. Welcome, all of you gentlemen, to Rajya Sabha TV studios. Let me begin with you, Dr. Singh. 10 years is a long time for anyone, or specifically any nation, to gather its momentum and put in place an apparatus. How do you see over the past decade we have done in terms of further shoring up our security apparatus, including specifically the intelligence agencies and the entire intelligence grid which we talk about?
Vishalji, collecting, disseminating and acting upon intelligence is both an art and a science. Collecting intelligence is a full-time professional job, but to understand it, I would draw your attention to Adrian Levy, a filmmaker, a critic and a novelist and a writer, who says that we paid a very heavy price in 26/11 in the sense that we got a plethora of intelligence reports, but we failed to act on them. Otherwise, we would not have had to pay such a heavy price. But in the 10 years, we have learnt our lessons. We have put our act together. And I'm sure we'll give a befitting reply if such a situation ever arises. But the fact remains, again, that we need to put all the pieces of jigsaw puzzle together and intelligently, even if it were to use all the technology, artificial intelligence, robotics and everything to put into place and decipher whatever garbled signals that we are getting from across the globe. You may recall that US gave us a very garbled signal in respect of the interrogation reports of David Coleman Headley. They concealed the vitals and gave us what was not so relevant, because their prime concern was Osama bin Laden and not Mumbai attacks. But we should have relied on our own channels. Our own channels, we had no fewer than 20 intelligence reports, but obviously we could have done much better.
Okay, we could have done much better, but we've come a long way as well. Let me bring in, other representatives from other such bodies. I'll come to you, Mr. Bansal, a little later, but let me first bring in Mr. Navneet here from the NIA, former DG. Mr. Navneet, how do you look at the situation, the past decade or so, the way we have fared? We have new agencies now, like NIA itself, which was established during this particular period.
No, our biggest problem and challenge, which even remains today, is that we have too many agencies. And when you have too many agencies, the disadvantage is that there is an inherent turf war. And everybody, every institution wants to keep the information to itself rather than sharing it. Another difficulty where we have not done much is that intelligence is collected from the ground. We have not yet strengthened our local police stations or the intelligence gathering at the local police station level. We, whether it is Intelligence Bureau, whether it is NCTC or NIA, these are all agencies which have a very, very minimum staff, and they are not equipped to gather intelligence from all over the country. And that's the major problem which remains.
Okay. Let me bring in Mr. D.C. Pathak here as well, the former director of Intelligence Bureau, India's internal security agency. Mr. Pathak, how do you look at the situation, in the past decade or so? We've learned our lessons, it looks like, but how far have we gone?
You see, as far as the Mumbai attack is concerned, there are a few things which had become clear even when the event occurred. It's good to recall them. One, that it marked a new level of covert offensive from Pakistan, which established a new level of daring and planning that could go against such an act. It was the first time that the attack came from the deep sea. Of course, you could recall that in '93 blast, there was this boat used for RDX transportation right at the coast. But the indication that something would happen from the high seas, that was not the case at that time. Mm-hmm. Second, and this is very important, that it marked a new level of collaboration between Pakistan Army and the so-called Islamic militants as an instrument of an escalating proxy war. I think we have seen that proxy war grow in the manner we can understand. Mm-hmm. The main thing is that this big offensive took place, and somewhere, I don't mind saying, that information deficiency was there. We had bits of pieces, in fact a significant piece of information coming from a friendly country. Mm-hmm. We should have been more friendly than that. That there would be an attack, could be an attack on Taj Hotel. But that character of the offensive, I think some concrete information was still not coming. And then what was left to do was to assess what had been missed out and what could be done, because there was something very large that had happened for the first time. Mm-hmm. And two things became very clear: that the inter-agency coordination could do better, and that because some suspects were moving in and out all the time, there was this need in today's world of detecting the footprint of suspicion by scanning data across the canvas, mm-hmm. and introduce that element of data analytics, which today has become a feature
and a very important feature as well, in fact,
security setups. So the good thing is that initiative was taken both the fronts, and what we have by way of MAC, which should develop into NCTC, okay. Is that in today's date, the agency's information comes at a central point.
Okay.
And of course, NATGRID, I have some idea of its history. Mm-hmm. NATGRID is that attempt to integrate the relevant data from banking to immigration to others, so that the likes of David Coleman Headley would not go undetected. But one thing I want to make use of this occasion to say, mm-hmm. that to what extent a major country should rely on the goodwill of a friendly country to share intelligence. There is no reason why some bigger indication should not have been given by the Americans.
Okay, so clearly, Mr. Pathak, what you're pointing out is that the entire idea right now is to go ahead and focus on collecting the entire information and skimming through it, going through it, and then disseminating the interagency coordination, which Mr. Navneet was also pointing out. I'll come back to you, Mr. Pathak, but let me bring in Mr. Bansal here on this part. Mr. Bansal, you've heard all the gentlemen, and you had a very close look at the entire internal security scenario as well, the way it has developed over the past decade or so. What do you make of several steps which have been taken, and to the extent they have been taken, and something more which we need to go ahead and do now?
See, as the only non-police officer in your panel, let me give a different perspective. Now, what Mr. Pathak said, he has been Director IB, he has been Chairman JIC, is that it was a unique attack. It was a different attack. It took the attack to a different thing. But the role of an intelligence agency is to actually forecast that. There were enough indications that there are going to be attack through the medium of sea. We would get it. The fact is also there that there were alerts which were issued, that certain alerts from the sea are expected. But the problem today is that actionable intelligence, as is called, is again become a problem. Because if every 2 days you keep giving an alert that there is likely to be an attack by so and so, I think nothing gets happened. That's been happening. So there has been some amount of intelligence failure as far as Mumbai was concerned. That's not deniable, actually. Having said that, we also need to understand that intelligence is a very unique field where successes cannot be propagated. But unfortunately, failures are known to everyone. So it's one thing where efficacy of an intelligence organization, intelligence sharing would not be known. But having observed some of these meetings which we have, where different agencies come and share intelligence, what I have analyzed, and again I may be wrong because being from someone being from outside the system, is that every agency tries to withhold certain information. Nobody wants to tell everything. The second problem is very often what happens is different agencies have the same source, thereby raising the level of reliability of that information. Now, 10 years down the line, as far as technical innovations are concerned, data analytics is concerned, technical tools are concerned, technical intelligence is concerned, I think we have taken a quantum leap. I have no doubts that our technical capabilities have gone.
Okay.
But as far as human intelligence is concerned, I don't think so. It has really substantially improved. We have certain serious lacuna in our intelligence system. Let's be very clear. To my mind, an intelligence officer's job and a police officer's job is diametrically opposite. A police officer has to be seen. He has to impose his authority, whereas an intelligence officer has to merge with the people. Now, this very concept where an IB officer has to be a police officer is actually flawed to my mind. This whole concept, because as he said, former DG NIA said that we have created multiplicity of agencies. There is no doubt. If you look at the whole police structure post-independence, we have gone for cadre reviews. We have gone for creating multiple agencies basically to adjust people so that higher ranks could be created, so that people can get promoted. From the time when UP used to have one Inspector General, today we have 27 DGs in UP at some times. So we have gone for a cadre review, we have gone for different things. But what should be the intelligence requirements? To my mind, Intelligence Bureau, Cabinet Secretariat, etc., all the agencies must have inputs from various organs of the state. They cannot only be an appendage of the police, because you need inputs from every agency. Now what happens is you have different agency, revenue intelligence, somebody is doing some. Now the interface doesn't work out. Rather than have, like the way our adversary has gone, inter-services intelligence, where you try and get people from different agencies, and probably, though of course in their case also it's the army which is dominating it, but ideally you actually need an inter-service where you have a revenue chap also, you have a...
so basically better coordination between several
not better coordination. An agency with inputs and expertise from different fields. That's a different. Coordination between agencies is always flawed with problems, because then there are turf wars, there are issues that this is my turf, why is he encroaching into it? Like you saw when IB RAW was created from IB, there was a tough war.
So you're indicating a part amalgamation sort of thing. You know, you have people from different fields at a single place.
I am telling that we need to go for a whole-scale intelligence reforms.
Okay.
To say that an IB officer has to be a police officer is actually a flawed premise.
Okay, whole-scale intelligence reforms will bring Mr. Pathak and Mr. Navneet as well on this. But another point which you made, Mr. Bansal, was about human intelligence. I want to bring Dr. Singh on this. Dr. Singh, all of us agree on this part, that as far as technical part of the intelligence sharing and intelligence gathering part is concerned, that is something we've made strides. But as far as human intelligence is concerned, a police constable or a policeman on the ground is the first line as far as when you talk about gathering human intelligence. So you being a former DGP, how do you think we have fared in that aspect? Have we improved, or have we found ways to go ahead and improve upon that particular aspect of gathering human intelligence?
Vishalji, let me tell you that every police officer has a part of an intelligence officer in him. It is ingrained in his makeup, in his evolution and his training that you are an intelligence officer. Every police station in the country has 3 records. Suspicious roles register, intelligence register, and SO's confidential diary. These 3 records are primarily there that if you see anything of suspicious, anything that needs to be reported to the higher, it has to be kept and maintained there for posterity and also for purposes of record. Now, over the years, if I were to tell you that there were photographs of a subject on the left-hand side, on the right hand, from the front, and taken surreptitiously, not by calling the subject over for photography session. But nevertheless, all this has now taken a backseat because of poor training, poor, in fact, prioritizing, and in a scale of 1:10, every police officer is supposed to be an intelligence officer, and in a scale of 1:10, he is now just 3 out of 10, where he should have been at least 9 out of 10. The documents are not in position. That focus and the ability to watch and to be a cat, that is missing. But now that we have 2 departments like ATS and the STF, look at the level of intelligence, human intelligence, look at the way they garner intelligence, look at the way they cultivate informers. It has also now become an art how to get informers, how to collect information from them, how to guide them, and how to really tell them what to get and how to get. And in fact, not only the intelligence that you get from machine, from electronic surveillance, but human intelligence also now has to be, because the one-to-one interaction has no substitute, and no intelligence, electronic or otherwise, can substitute human intelligence. And that human intelligence is the gem, because if you read, the best success stories are those that have the basis and the foundation in human intelligence, not technical intelligence. And that human, whether it's Osama bin Laden or elsewhere, whether it's the success stories in India, whether it is Dadua, Tokia, or any success story anyway, it has to be on the basis of human. To that extent, the police officer have to be trained, and that priority has to be number 1, that keep your skills on top level so that you are able to get informers, train informers, and train them also how to collect quality and actionable intelligence.
Okay. Mr. Vasan, your views as far as human intelligence is concerned and augmenting that particular part of our entire apparatus?
No, I said in the beginning itself that the local police, from where the human intelligence is collected, is extremely important component of intelligence gathering, and then somebody need to filter that intelligence which is collected at the ground level and share the necessary inputs with other agencies operating in the field of prevention of any terrorist or otherwise offense. That is extremely important. So having said that, I will say that, I said multiple agencies. You have MAC, you have NCTC concept of, you have National Investigation Agency, you have Intelligence Bureau, you have Cabinet Secretariat. There are so many agencies, there are Revenue Intelligence. Now, all these agencies, there has to be a single coordinating agency which shuffles through the intelligence which has been provided by these agencies, as well as by the state police or state intelligence apparatus, and that necessary inputs have to be filtered and shared all across wherever on need to know basis.
Okay.
So that is not happening, because the very purpose of collection of intelligence is to prevent. It is not to investigate. Investigation is a later part. God forbid anything happens. So it is extremely important that intelligence is gathered, it is analyzed, it is shuffled through, and it is shared on need to know basis on a a very timely basis,
okay,
rather than making it post.
Okay, so it has to be done in a timely manner. Mr. Pathak, I would like to bring you here again in our show, and this time around on the very aspect which you spoke about and which some of our other panelists also pointed out, that is the interagency coordination. You headed the IB and you were a chief of the JIC as well. As far as interagency coordination is concerned, how do you propose to go ahead and achieve this seemingly, arduous task?
You see, I've heard my fellow panelists with great attention. Most of what they have said has been said before. I liked my friend Vikram saying that every policeman has an information gathering element in his professional being. The reason why it is said that why intelligence being manned by police, historically intelligence bureau was led by the IPS, and the first 5 officers in a batch were normally picked up for intelligence bureau for in the years after independence. The point is that IB is manned by IPS, but it is not a police organization in the sense that police is an action taking wing and intelligence is information collection. There is a distinction between information and an action. IB never goes into action, but it helps IB, the leadership, to coordinate closely with the state police leadership. And therefore, a lot of thinking has been going on this. Look, the event like, say, Mumbai, information could have come right from the top if India's setup would have been able to infiltrate the planners who were doing it at Karachi, or our ground mechanism would have been spread so well on the ground that what was missed out at the top would be picked up at the ground in some form or the other. Because when the terrorists operate, after all, they operate out of some mohalla or lane or something. And even in this, when this, this Kasab and all, they boarded from that, I mean, they got out of the boat, somebody accosted them because they were wearing jeans and they looked very unusual in that environment. If this man who accosted this would have been the intelligence agent of some agency, perhaps it might have been prevented. Theoretically speaking, therefore, you have intelligence from below and intelligence from above. And I have personally been hammering on this point that our capacity to generate intelligence from below, which will take us down to the level of contribution of what a police station would do, has become very important, because whatever be the planning, its materialization happens on our soil. In some police
so again, what you're pointing out at, Mr. Pathak, is the human intelligence part, which most of our panelists are also pointing out. Let me bring in, we're running short of time, but let me bring in one more element, and this time around the intelligence sharing with other countries and other nations as well, because that was also a very important part as far as 2611 is concerned, as has been pointed out by Dr. Singh. Mr. Bansal, on your point of view, the way India has had, its agreements or its relations with several nations as far as sharing intelligence with them is concerned is pretty well known, and we have had that network as well. And we are trying to augment that. But do you think that, internationally also, all the agencies from several countries, all these big nations, they also need to make more efforts to try and have that combined approach? We are talking about, within the country, all these agencies, which all you guys are pointing out. But those other agencies which are operating outside India, international agencies as well, we need to collaborate with them as well on a much faster pace and on much broader level.
See, collaboration with foreign agencies depend on those countries' agendas, irrespective of what agreements you might sign. The amount of information that is shared with you would depend on the national interest of that particular country. And there have been numerous occasions where incidents have been prevented because we got inputs from foreign intelligence agencies, many of who are far more professional and have better resources than we have, especially in some of the advanced countries' cases. certain other neighboring countries have also given their valuable inputs to us, and that's helped. But here again, there is an important issue which I just wanted to go back and tell. One of the issues which Mr. Vasan said, that the intelligence has to be shared on need to know basis, which is a very important ingredient of intelligence sharing, that you don't share anything and everything, what is on need. If you need this particular information. But the point is, when you have an intelligence agency which comprises of people, officers from only one cadre, their understanding of that is only that. Now, just to give you an example on Mumbai, if somebody would have come that some boat has been hijacked, now probably an intelligence officer's understanding of what it could be used, or somebody realized that they are picking up jerry cans to get fuels into it, their understanding may not, if supposing there was somebody from the Navy for the example.
So interpretation of information could have been
different. An agency which is only manned by one particular cadre of officers is, to my mind, not suitable in today's context to be the sole provider of counterintelligence in India.
Okay, we've had a word on that as well, and we can come back to Dr. Singh on that aspect. But Mr. Vasan, on the collaboration with other foreign agencies as well, from your point of view, how crucial is that aspect as well? Because in today's age, we are talking about non-state actors as well, acting from across the border as well.
No, it is extremely important. Unless we have collaboration, because now the persons who plan, they need not sit in your country. They can sit somewhere else in some far distant place and operate from there. So it is extremely important that you have a very robust mechanism of sharing intelligence with other countries. I know, I agree with Mr. Bansal that they will always have their national interest paramount. That is fine. But still, I think we have to improve in this area. We have to build bridges. We have to station more number of officers outside to collaborate, to keep interacting with intelligence agencies. And we have to improve our sharing mechanism so that that intelligence can be used for preventing any kind of attacks.
Okay, so a lot of improvement there as well. Quick concluding comments from you, Dr. Singh, before we close the show.
Absolutely, we need to upgrade our skills, both technical and human intelligence. We also, there's a lot of merit in what Mr. Bansal says, but let us not make any mistake. I would not disclose the professional secrets of any organization, but the fact remains that we have chartered accountants, we have engineers, we have doctors, we have serving officers of the Army, Air Force, working for our intelligence in the state intelligence, both in the STF and the... Today, if you work in silos, you are courting the recipe of disaster. It has to be all encompassing so that you give a befitting reply and collect and appreciate intelligence and react as a resolute nation.
Okay, so clearly, as our panelists have pointed out, that we have come a long way since 26/11 attacks in Mumbai and done a lot of homework, a lot of groundwork as well. But there is still a lot which needs to be done to try and counter such kind of threats in the future. Keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.